Welcome back. It's my project and I will cry if I want to. Back with the crane. I'm trying to just keep chipping away at this thing, so I've got a little project for today. I mentioned it in some of my previous videos, but the power steering pump actually is seeping out between the reservoir and the pump, it looks like. So I'd like to get that reservoir off and get a new gasket in it. So it might be hard for you to tell, but it's a little bit oily, and I've noticed that it seems to be seeping. So basically between this reservoir and between the pump, and I think I can just get the reservoir off and make the gasket and put it in without removing the whole pump. So I'm going to try that first. I do obviously have to get everything out of the reservoir first. So I'm going to drain that out without making too much of a mess, hopefully, and then try and get this reservoir off of the pump, and then I'm just going to try and cut my own gasket for that and see if we can't get that to seal up. Well, that didn't go good. So basically, when I pulled that hose off, I had my finger over it, and then I was gonna just let it, go into the jug. The hose didn't quite fit into the mouth of the jug, and then it started spilling, and then I kind of panicked, and I pretty much lost all that fluid, which is fine. I can replace it, but made a bit of a mess. Luckily, the cardboard caught most of it, and then I had a pan under there too, so the pan caught some of that too. But now that the reservoir is pretty well empty, I can go ahead and try and get it off there. So I'm gonna get the bolts undone, see if I can get that off there, start to make this new gasket. So here's what we've got going on. Pretty nasty. That gasket has definitely seen better days. I got the pump surface pretty clean. It looks a little dirtier than it actually is. There's a little bit of oil on there and stuff right now. And I also have the reservoir surface cleaned up pretty good as well. I got a little bit of a blowout here in this one section, but other than that, it looks very good. I'm gonna cut that out, and we're gonna make that work for our template. That looks pretty good. Now I'm just gonna hold these in line with each other. I'm going to trace this out. So as you can see, fits like a glove. We'll get everything wiped down one more time, get that piece of paper towel out of there, and get this reservoir popped back on there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and pour some ATF in. And I'm not going to put a ton of this in until I see if it's going to leak or not. So And I'm just going to let this sit probably the rest of the weekend. I don't think I'm going to be back to work on it this weekend. And then when I come in to work on Monday, I should be able to peek over here either before or after work and just see if this is seeming to seep any ATF out or not. It may be hard for you to see it, but looks like, if anything, I made my problem worse. So it's Sunday now, and right as I was finished packing up tools yesterday and everything, I noticed that this was still seeping. So I decided, instead of waiting till Monday to check if it's seeping, since I already knew, I'd come back in today and try and take care of this. So I've got sort of a two-part plan here for how I'm going to hopefully fix this. So for one thing, I think I'm going to switch to cork gasket. I think that's just going to allow a little more squish. That reservoir seemed a little uneven, and you know, I think it'll help take up more of the variation there. And then I'm also probably going to bite the bullet and put some silicone gasket maker in addition to that. I prefer not to use that if I can and just run the gasket like it's meant to be. But I think that I don't feel like having to do this multiple times and just end up using it later. So for now, I'm just going to put it on and hopefully make sure it's sealed up this time so I don't have to get back in here. And really, you know, if it seals up, I should never really have to disturb that, and then hopefully never have a problem with it again in as long as I use this crane. So I'm going to go ahead. I also got a crow's foot wrench so that I can put the way that stud goes down in to the reservoir, basically it has a nut at the bottom that they want you to tighten, and I think, you know, holding that stud and tightening that nut will help draw that reservoir down better than basically I just double nutted it and let that bottom nut go all the way up on its threads and then not be able to spin anymore, so then it kind of pulled everything down with the stud. That's not really the best way, and I was worried about it then, but I didn't have anything to reach down and be able to tighten that nut down there. So now I can thread the stud in and then tighten that nut down at the bottom instead of tightening the whole stud to draw the reservoir down, and hopefully that will also help avoid a leak. So I'm gonna get this drained back out, get it back apart, and get a cork gasket made and start to work on getting it sealed up. So I spared you the details here and skipped ahead to just having this off of here, but you know, of course I just drained it out and unbolted it and everything again. But this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the stud. So this is the top of the stud here, and that is where I double nutted it. Now I did notice yesterday this has a hole through the middle, which I can only assume is for holding it or tightening it or something. But then on the bottom end of the stud, it comes with a nut. Now that nut is meant to get tightened, and that's what's supposed to hold the reservoir down. So you're supposed to, you know, thread the stud in and then tighten the nut down. But I couldn't reach down there and tighten that nut once the stud was in. So I just let that nut back all the way up to the part that's not threaded on this stud, because then the shaft is too big and the nut will not go any further, so it's like it's stuck. And then I just tighten from this end almost like it's a big bolt and snug it down. That may be part of my problem, because you know, the way that these are designed, studs like this, you know, they're meant to get the nut torquing down to tighten them up. So I have a crow's foot wrench now. I'll show you that in a little bit, but I just got those so that I can tighten this down once it's down in there. Perfect. So there we have our gasket. Now I'm gonna get some cleaner, clean both surfaces, obviously get my silicone, put the silicone on, and we'll put her all back together. Alright, I've got the reservoir back on, used that silicone gasket maker and made that cork gasket put in there, got that tightened up. So I'm gonna leave that cure a little while. I'm gonna work on putting the hose back on from the reservoir for now, and then after a little while here, I might leave it for an hour or so, just make sure it's setting up some, and then I'll put a little ATF in it again and see what happens. Well, I think I actually fixed it now. I let it sit for a while. As you can see, it doesn't seem to be seeping right now. Obviously, I added fluid in the reservoir before I let it sit. But it's going to be hard to tell until I really let it sit, so I'll be back tomorrow and I'll get to double check it. But I think I got it, and I'm going to call that one fixed for now. So if you enjoyed this content, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Share with your friend if you think they'll enjoy this too. And that's another thing ticked off the list on the crane. See you in the next one.